Hey, everybody. Wait for some people to hop in here for this edition of the Urban Bourbon Hour. What's up, everybody? Thanks for hopping in here. It's Chris, the Urban Bourbonist. I'm coming to you live, as I always do, from the Urban Bourbon Bunker here. Thanks for joining. This is I think the 12th episode of the Urban Bourbon Hour. If you have not seen previous episodes, you can check them all out on YouTube. Just search Urban Bourbon Hour on YouTube. And here's Brandon already. Wow, he's on the ball. Let's bring Brandon in here. Thanks for joining, everybody.
What's up, Chris?
What's going on, Brandon? How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. How about yourself?
Good to see you, man.
Great to see you.
Doing well,
Great to do this.
Yeah, well, thanks for kind of suggesting that we hop on and do a live. And I thought, hey, let's maybe take advantage of this and do like a full-on Urban Bourbon Hour and talk to you and kind of people that don't know about you and about Bourbon Charity, give them an opportunity to learn about you. But before we get into all that, how is everything down there in the Phoenix area with our current situation?
Dude, I tell you what, hopefully people are going to start to get the memo. We were actually on spring break for 2 weeks when kind of all this stuff really started to go down, and really the social distancing, the self-isolation, the quarantine. And we were up in northern Arizona, and this town is like 6,000 people, and it's usually full of tourists, and there was no one there. And so we were really isolated for 2 weeks. We drove back down to the Phoenix area on Saturday. I went to go run the dog that afternoon around the park, and I saw like the fullest the park has ever been. There's people playing football, there's people playing soccer, there's just kids running around in the playground. I was like, what is going on? Are people just not getting the memo? And I'm not sure if you're experiencing the same thing there, but I was a little alarmed here.
Yeah, I mean, in Chicago, we got put on like the stay-at-home order sometime last week, I think it was. But prior to that, my wife and I were kind of staying at home anyway, because we kind of saw it coming. We saw how the situation was going. And of course here, a large population of Chicago, like we were having an uptick in cases and all that. But still, I'm not quite sure people are getting it. I mean, the mayor of Chicago was just on TV today threatening to close down the lakefront because too many people are going to the lakefront and congregating. Like I went out today to get gas for my grill, a propane tank, and I have to go by a park. I went by a park, and there's literally tons of people with their kids.
It's crazy.
Playing in the park. But hopefully people start to get it, because, this is not a virus that you want to get.
No, not at all. And, a shout out goes to all the first responders, the delivery people, the grocery store clerks. I mean, the people that are on the front lines, making it happen. We're very, very fortunate, to be able to, self-isolate. There's other people that just, they can't. So, big shout out, and people that are going through hard times, it's reminiscent, when the real estate market crashed, this was kind of the hotbed for that. And, just seeing a lot of people go through the financial fallout from that, the foreclosures, the short sales, that kind of stuff. We got through it though. I mean, there's a silver lining. A lot of people realized, hey, maybe I don't need that huge house or that huge mortgage or this or that. And I think we might look back and on this situation, be like, hopefully, we learned something from this, and we're better prepared for the future.
Yes,
I think there's something that a lot of us are going to learn that some good's going to come out of this.
I mean, you would hope from all the bad that's occurring right now that hopefully, we learn from it, maybe make some changes to our country as a whole. What those are, I don't know, but I think there's there's a lot coming down the line still that needs to be figured out, and hopefully we can just kind of get through this in the next, couple of months, hopefully at the most, but
just lock down. Let's, this, like, it's like a Band-Aid. You just got to rip it off. Like, let's isolate for whatever time, like, get it done, and then let's move on.
Absolutely.
So,
okay.
What are you drinking?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that same thing. So I have this bottle,
ooh,
which I've never had. I've never tried this before. It's a store pick. And I figured tonight would be a good night to kind of pop this open and try it out for the first time. What are you drinking?
I'm going to go with the latest Bourbon Charity barrel pick that we did with Iron Root. I'm your Huckleberry. It's just a banger of a bourbon. Really great folk there at Iron Root. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to try this yet, but any of Iron Root's product, but they are doing great things down there in Texas.
Yeah, so let's talk about that pick real quick since you're pouring it there. That was a limited number of bottles from Iron Root, right?
Yeah, the 136 bottles, barrel proof. It's comes in at 124 and a half. It's a 3-year-old. They did an experimental with some kind of Mexican green corn, and they did 2 barrels of it, and this was one of the barrels, and it just has a very unique finish to it. It's kind of got like a poblano pepper finish to it. It's kind of a unique pepper spice to it, and on this, it's really corn forward. It's a 3-year bourbon.
Yeah.
I get kind of like that cornbread with melted butter on it, like corn pop cereal. That yummy cereal you ate when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
It's just a really solid bourbon, and they're great people down there doing great things for. I know they've done stuff for Children's Tumor Foundation. They collaborated with us on this for Fisher House Foundation. And less than 24 hours. I mean, it's really just a great win-win all the way around. We raised over $3,000 for Fisher House Foundation. So. And
in a matter of 24 hours. And what was so cool is they did the sales just there at the distillery, correct?
Yep. And no distributors, no middlemen, no other retailers to pay. That's why we were able to donate so much. It was $20 a bottle. That went to Fisher House, so it's just a great win-win and great support there in they're just north of Dallas area, so a lot of great people in the Dallas area. I know a lot of people drove from Arizona over there to get some of them, bring some back for some friends. So we have a great network here as well. So much love for the AZ folk here.
Yeah, that's really cool, and it's so great how it can just happen that quickly, and the support from them is really a fun thing to see, to have distilleries kind of hopping on board with Bourbon Charity. But let's kind of back things up. A lot of the things I'm going to ask you, I already know a lot of the answers, but to kind of just get this out there to people who may be new to finding out about Bourbon Charity, may just be hopping into this live and watching. So can you tell us, mostly when people decide they're going to get involved with a charity or start one like you did, there's a personal reason behind why people support the charities that they do. So can you kind of take us through your story and what you were doing or what brought you to the point where you were moved to create Bourbon Charity to kick it off?
Yeah, great question. And like you said, every kind of nonprofit kind of has a story behind it. And mine's no different in my journey to start a nonprofit. It really started about 5 years ago with my old man. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and really, didn't think too much of it. A lot of older men, you're going to get it at some point, right? It's just a matter of when. He elected to have his prostate removed, and what was supposed to be a overnight surgery turned into a complete nightmare for my family. He was in intensive care for over 30 days at the hospital, and we we didn't know if he was going to make it. And luckily, he's a survivor. He pulled through it. But at the same time, my dad was going through prostate cancer and fighting for his life. A little girl in my hometown, who's like one of my best friends in high school growing up, her daughter was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis, which meant that tumors were growing on her brain and on her spine and on her legs, and just really bad stuff was all happening in my life at once. And I really had nothing bad that had happened to me before with loved ones. And I got inspired by what this little girl and her family decided to do. Instead of, run and hide from this terrible disease, they stood up and they fought for it. They organized a 5K run walk in my hometown to raise awareness for Children's Tumor Foundation and to raise donations for it. And I was like, man, count me in as a sponsor.
Yeah.
I got out the checkbook, I wrote the check, I sent it, and I didn't feel right. I didn't feel, like I was doing anything with what was happening in my life. Like I was kind of not in control of my surroundings and with all these people that stuff's going wrong in their life. And I felt like I could just do better and really put more hard work into just writing a check to make a difference.
Yeah.
And so I was at the office one day, and I have a nice little bourbon bar set up in the office in between the ping pong room and the pool table room at my office. So it's a pretty slick little setup. And I was playing ping pong one day with the boys. And I was walking past the bar. I was like, you know what? I wonder how much money all this bourbon could raise. I wonder, if I really set up a nonprofit, like how much money could I raise for like Prostate Cancer Foundation, Children's Tumor Foundation, and other organizations that really need it.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Let's research this. Let's see, are there any other bourbon type charities or nonprofits out there doing anything? And I kind of stumbled across some Facebook groups and some other stuff. And what I kind of realized, and I'm a business guy, they just weren't doing it the proper way, which is really the hard way to do things. It's all the licensing, it's the nonprofit, it's the insurance, it's the being able to solicit in all the states and raising donations. There's a lot that goes in it to do it the right way. And I was like, you know what? I'll throw this out there and just see what happens with the Father's Day bourbon giveaway. I'll raise money for these charities, and I'll see how it goes. I'll see if there's a fit for this.
Yeah.
And within it wasn't even 90 days. It was maybe 70 days on social media marketing. We were able to raise $75,000 last year on the Father's Day Ultimate Bourbon Giveaway. And it was just...
That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy? Just for some bourbon and people buy into the story and they could tell, it's genuine. It's coming from let's do this together. And that's what's so that I've really learned about the bourbon community and social media. There's a lot of upside and great things about the people out there that are wanting to help, wanting to communicate. I got so many kind words and, support from so many people out there. And of course, you're going to have the people that just, they don't understand. And that's going to come with any kind of nonprofit. There's always a trust factor there. But I knew if we kept building it the right way and doing it the proper way to do it, that we'd win those supporters over and they would become our greatest allies and, drinking for a change and doing good with bourbon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so why bourbon? But it was sort of seems like it was just you had this collection and you were just well, let's see what we can do surrounding whiskey. I have this collection. It seems like there could be a kind of a niche here that we could start this thing around.
Absolutely. That's one thing about what's unique kind of when I was looking at different options of how could I raise money. It's when you focus on a special interest, you get people that are are, you know, drawn to it, right? And it's not that people don't want to help out Children's Tumor Foundation, but you know, this is social media. This is today. Like, do a lot of people really want to see kids with and going through tough situations, or would they rather see bottles of bourbon that they're interested in? So I think there was a logical connection, being able to you know, take one interest and connect it to a passion of making a difference. And I think that's the bridge that Bourbon Charity is trying to create.
It's genius. I mean, like you said, like so the community and people can kind of focus on the whiskey aspect of it, and knowing on the backside of it, they're doing something for all these great charities that Bourbon Charity is supporting. And like you called it, I think calling it a bridge is really, really cool. To bridge from this community into so many other places that could use the support. So, I mean, truly a really genius idea. I mean, it's great.
It's still a work in progress, and you know, that's why I'm excited to kind of, you know, do what we're doing here with the Bourbon Hood, and introducing kind of the next phase of kind of where we're going as a charity. You know, big things are happening, you know, with distilleries like Iron Root, you know, jumping on board to do stuff. Buffalo Trace, you know, sent us the 1,000th barrel. That was another great fundraiser we were able to do on Thanksgiving of last year. Raised almost $70,000 for, I think it was 8 bottles of bourbon.
Yeah,
$70,000. It's just absurd, the amount of money that can be raised from the community.
Yeah. So basically, so the charity just had a 1-year anniversary.
1 year, the 21st.
Yeah, on the 21st. Congratulations. That's really awesome. I sort of joined Instagram right after you had completed the Father's Day fundraiser last year. So I kind of like became aware of Bourbon Charity after that, which was a huge success for like the first big thing that you started to raise money for. And then you go from there, and then we had the Thanksgiving fundraiser last year, which was $75,000. So just between those two fundraisers, that's, you know, $150,000 generated in a really short period of time. And I mean, to be able to get it up and running, you know, last year, 1 year ago, have those two fundraisers. Since then, there's been other ones which we'll talk about.
2 other ones, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
well, I owe a lot of love to my wife for.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So, like, can you kind of talk about like? So this starts off with you. I'm sure your family is like. Is like supporting this and like kicking in and
absolutely.
So you started like from that point. It's like you, your family, maybe some friends, to where it has gone today. Like the growth of the charity from just being this small operation to now, like you have ambassadors. You're starting to form these partnerships with distilleries that are doing really cool things like the Iron Root bottle. Can you kind of just talk about like what it was like to go from just kind of like bootstrapping to getting to where you are now 1 year later, starting off like from nothing, achieving the 501c3, and then like here we are, you're like on the cusp of now like launching into many really cool things this year. Yeah,
I mean, obviously it's the people that you surround yourself with that make stuff happen and make success happen. Obviously the support from my wife and my family has been amazing. She knows this is like my passion, and she lets me just run with it, which is amazing. When, you know, on the flip side, if I wasn't spending all the time, the resources doing this, we could have that nicer car or that nicer house or whatever. She is just the rock. And I'm just so grateful for her, obviously, first off. And then obviously the team members, the ambassadors have really helped fuel this growth. It's a lot of hard work. It's putting in the times of building relationships and getting to know people and getting to know, hey, I know that person on Instagram's kids and I know what he does or I know what she does. Like it's forming those relationships, albeit it's not in the real world, in the digital world, online world, and just taking an interest in people. And once you start to build up that community and these ambassadors that believe in the mission, it's pushing a ball downhill, and it just makes everything so much easier. So huge shout out to all the ambassadors, all the people that make comments on the post, that really helps get more eyeballs and more awareness on the charity. All those little things, really, I say to people all the time, like, it's not just money, it's awareness. The two things charity needs is donations and awareness. So like, there are tough times, like people, hey, if you don't have money to give, it's perfectly cool. But like, hey, if you're like, hey, I know John and John's doing okay, or he likes bourbon, this might be a thing that he would like to follow. Like, spreading that awareness and helping us grow in other ways is very impactful. So, I just attribute kind of the growth of the charity to the community and the people that make up Bourbon Charity. And Bourbon Charity is not me and not the ambassadors. It's the whole community, really, which is a great thing.
Yeah, and I think one of the really, really cool things, like talking about last year, is how you did the blind samples that went out to those went out to so many different people. You had the Buffalo Trace Mashville 1 challenge, the Bottled and Bond challenge. Like, to do those and to get the awareness out that way into the community, I think was really a really cool thing to do. You got these groups of people kind of talking about the samples, talking about going online and putting in their votes, and I think that really was a really awesome thing to raise awareness last year. I mean, I think from when you first started doing those, to the end of the year last year, Bourbon Charity was everywhere I looked.
Yeah.
Everywhere I looked, and it showed your account went from whatever the numbers were to you're at almost 15,000 followers now. So I mean, a lot of awareness, which is really huge, which I think is great. So
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and that's it's a business, right? A charity is a business, and it takes a lot of upfront funding and marketing to make this happen, to gain that traction, to gain that trust, to start doing things, to do giveaways, to show the community is, hey, we're giving to all these other organizations, which is great, but we also want to give to our community too. It needs to be twofold. We need to support, obviously, the charities, but also support one another. So I think it goes hand in hand, where it's okay, let's invest in our community and invest in building that strong, brotherhood. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it just makes everyone that much have that connection to Bourbon Charity, which it's huge. So over the first year here that Bourbon Charity has been around, I know it's been a longer process than that, but
right.
What's been kind of your proudest moment over this past year? I mean, I know there's been a lot of really cool things. I don't know if you can pinpoint one particular thing.
I can definitely pinpoint.
All right.
The thank you note I got from my high school friend and her daughter, just the love, and it makes it all worth it. All those waking up at 4 a.m. to work and to do this and make this run. It's getting that that impact. That's what I wanted when I wrote that check and donated to Children's Tumor Foundation. And to this little girl, I wanted that feeling. And I finally got it when I got the letter from her mom, and just knowing what impact that made for them as a family, and how we're making strides to end NF and cure this terrible disease. So, I mean, we're fighting with her. We're in the trenches with her, which is, man, that's it. That's icing
that's
on
what
the
it's
cake.
about. Yeah, for sure. So can you explain like a little bit about like how you go about determining like what charities that Bourbon Charity is gonna support for a particular fundraiser, or just in total, like throughout the course of the year, throughout all the fundraisers, like how do you go about selecting those charities for people that may not know?
Okay, so we have 5 fundraisers per year is what we're going for here, spread out like 2.5 months apart throughout the year. So it's gives a nice break in between raising money and doing these fundraisers. And so we have really 2 major fundraisers, those being the Father's Day Ultimate Bourbon Fundraiser and Thanksgiving, which is our millionth barrel to give thanks. So those are the 2. And so what we did is said, okay, on those 2 charities out of the 5, those will be the community getting to vote for which 5 charities to support. Now, I started it with the 5 that were important to me, and I chose different areas of ways to give. So I wanted to choose something international. So we chose charity water, and I'm proud to say we're building 2 water projects over in Africa. It's going to be amazing. But I also wanted something community-based. I wanted, Boys and Girls Club. I wanted something that had to do with kids and Children's Tumor Foundation. I wanted to have something to do with cancer, prostate cancer. So I really wanted to pick areas that spread out the love to different organizations across different sectors. And so that's what we did with the first year. And then at the end of 2019, we allowed people to vote for which fundraisers they want to support next year. And so there was only one change out of the 5. It was Boys and Girls Club actually got switched to Dare to Care, which is a local food bank in the Louisville area, which will be a great addition to our giving pool. But in the other 3 fundraisers, we wanted to kind of just focus on certain nonprofits that obviously we looked at, we made sure and we vested them and made sure that they were good charities. And so we have a Roses for Kids fundraiser, which is over Valentine's Day. And this year we supported a bunch of kids charities. So Children's Tumor Foundation, St. Jude, Children's Norton's Hospital. So really great kids-based charities. And so we're doing the same thing with the Support Our Troops fundraiser. It's all military-based organization. We're doing Fisher House Foundation, USO. So we're just trying to really pinpoint on different fundraisers how we can help different areas and do the most good we can do.
It's so great. And then what I think is really cool is that you've sort of created these specific fundraisers that you're going to do throughout the year, but you're also nimble enough to, if something comes up through the course of a year, and we need to kind of support whatever that tragedy is, or natural disaster, whatever it may be, the charity is nimble enough to just kind of immediately pop up a fundraiser and start raising money. And this year, we unfortunately had to raise money for the Australian bushfires, and that one was kind of like right on the heels of one of the other fundraisers. But you popped it up, raised I think it was almost $34,000 to support some of the charities that were doing great work there in Australia. So is that something like going forward for the charity that you're kind of earmarking, I don't know, like bottles, or you're kind of just kind of planning for those types of situations when they come up.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And it's you know, there seems like there's a different cause to raise money for every other day, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously, you know, we've got a lot of great supporters, and you don't want to, you know, over ask. No, you don't want to always have your hand out and like give. But there are going to be certain situations like the Australian bushfires where it was just the impact, and it was too much not to do something. And there are going to be certain causes like that we're going to call them like pop-up fundraisers that and that's one thing kind of unique about us. We can really do these fundraisers in a short period of time and make a huge impact, and direct those funds in the time of need to where it's needed. It's not that we're waiting to do, you know, some kind of big, you know, golf event or some kind of physical event to raise all this money and you know, have all this work of creating it. Is no, we can mobilize over our platform and really make something happen fast, which is exactly what we plan on doing more in the future. And I think we learned a little bit from that fundraiser as far as how much time to put into a fundraiser. You know, I think we had 10 days on that. I think we're going to shorten those pop-up fundraisers to be a little shorter to get those funds as fast as possible to the causes that we're supporting. And I think that fundraiser really showed that. I've never been up to Australia before. I don't know if you have, but I was impacted to give,
Yeah.
you know, for somewhere I've never been and people I've never met. And so were, you know, 700 other people here.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and that's what's also great about like this digital age is like you can just kind of call people to action, and we have the technology to like make it happen now. And for Bourbon Charity to like jump to action and like call people to action and use the technology, I think is really, it's huge. I mean, it's
that was one of the main things, Chris, when I was looking at setting this up, is like, okay, how do we do this?
Yeah.
How do we do this smart without taking up a ton of resources, getting a ton of volunteers? Is there a way to structure this that is more in line with the digital age that we're living in and do it the right way? And so a lot of that came around like trying to figure out how to do it on a platform. And I tell a lot of people, we do sweepstakes. They're not raffles. You cannot do a raffle because that's actually considered gambling. You have to be able to raise funds without giving consideration to raise those money. And so that's why the sweepstakes is a great idea. It also allows us to do the sweepstakes as a tax deductible donation, which is huge, which, you know, if you enter a rally or a silent auction, you don't get to write that off. But a sweepstakes, you do. So it's just trying to find those little tweaks and those little things that, okay, how can we set this up a little smarter where we're being a little more efficient, and we're also giving more benefits and advantages to the people that donate.
Yeah, which is really cool. Has the current pandemic that we're in now, has this changed like any of your thinking about like what the charity, like how the charity is operating? Or I mean, this is like a tough time because I know we had this discussion. I'm an ambassador. I think everyone knows that, for Bourbon Charity, and we kind of had this discussion like amongst us, like this is a really weird situation. Like what can we do? So has this period of time like changed anything in your mind, like how the charity is gonna? I don't know what I'm asking here really, but like, is this like?
No, I get what you're saying. Is it like, what's the impact of this on charity, and where's what, you know, what do we do as a charity, as Bourbon Charity for this?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
You know, we talked about it, the ambassadors, we spitballed it for a little bit and kind of felt like it was best to just hold tight and raise awareness for the USBG and some of the other local organizations, your local businesses, your local restaurants that are kind of struggling, that, you know, they want to pay their employees, that they need help, they need assistance. And kind of like for us to maybe take away from that, it didn't seem like the right moment in time is what the consensus was, which is great. You know, like I totally get it. Like there's going to be a time and place for bourbon charity and different things. And sometimes you got to just know when to be on the sidelines a little bit, which is not bad. It's just, you know, letting other people focus their eyeballs on other things and other things that are important.
Yeah, and who knows, there could be an opportunity to do something as this thing goes on. We don't know. So
yeah, wait and see. We'll see where the need is, if there's a need, and we can mobilize if that need is present, and make stuff happen.
Absolutely. So yeah,
that's a good idea.
Pick a relevant microsector and the impact the community and choose to help them instead of the pandemic as a whole. Yeah, I mean it's hard to pick and choose too. I know it's like
right.
It's a tough decision, but I'm sure there'll be something there that will be discussed as this goes on. But let's talk about, Brandon. Let's talk about this new program that was kind of announced today, which I think is really cool.
I don't know if they can really see it. This is don't have the right lighting, but yeah.
So tell us about there it is, Bourbon Hood. Tell everybody about Bourbon Hood, like the purpose for doing this, and how people can get involved with Bourbon Hood, and what kind of impact that's going to have on bourbon charity as a whole.
Sure. So from day one, when I started this charity, I was reading books, I was studying, and really just trying to figure out, how to best to do this charity. And I read a book from Scott Harrison. I'm not sure if you're familiar. It's called Thirst, and he is the founder of Charity Water, and like an idol of mine, like Charity Water and what they're doing, and his story about, how he changed his life from being a nightclub promoter to one of the biggest philanthropists and charities in the world is just amazing. And so their business model is 100%. So 100% of public donations go to fund those water projects. And I was like, that is so impactful. Like, I know if I'm writing Charity Water a check, none of that money is going to their office, to their salaries, to the overhead, to the expenses. It's going straight to that water project in Africa or wherever the need is. And I'm like, that is just so impactful. That is going to be Bourbon Charity's goal. I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there. One day we will get there. And so we started out, and I wanted to be aggressive with, how much money we could donate. Obviously, it takes a lot to start up a business. And sure. So we started out at 80% of all donations go to the supported charities. The other 20% goes to sourcing this rare bourbon, fulfillment, IT, marketing, the whole thing, right, to run a business. Yeah. But I was like, that 20%, I'm going to figure out a way to get that 20% covered by something else or some other way, so that when we do these fundraisers, these 5 fundraisers a year and the pop-ups, that 100% of those donations from those fundraisers go to those supported charities. So I'm happy to say we're on the right path. The Bourbon Hood is, I don't know whether they're called Bourbon Hood or the Bourbon Hood. I don't know. What do you like better?
Either works. I mean, yeah. I like just Bourbon Hood.
Bourbon Hood?
Yeah.
I was kind of going with Bourbon Hood too. Bourbon Hood is the answer. It's those monthly givers that understand, like, we are a business, we have expenses, we have overhead, we have costs. Like, if we can get those givers that believe in the charity so much and know that we can take $15,000 worth of bourbon and turn it into $75,000, $100,000 is a win. And these people are what is going to fund the operations and the overhead of bourbon charity, so that one day we can start chipping away that 80% and get to 85 to 90, 95 to 100% of donations for these fundraisers can go to a supported charity. So it's kind of taking charity models, business model, and saying, okay, well, here is the Bourbon Hood, and they're supporting the operations, and then we have these fundraisers that are going to the charity. So it's just separating. I think it's a win-win. We already had like 40 people sign up today, so we're on the right track. If it's just, I didn't know, obviously, we had to push back the Bourbon Derby that was supposed to happen on May the 2nd. Now it's on September 5th. So we were expecting revenue to come in to that to help our operations, right? We still have websites, we still have contracts with people, we still have bills to pay. And Bourbon Hood can help do that for us, which is going to allow us so many possibilities in the future when we do these fundraisers, are able to say 100% of your donation goes to these charities. Right,
but let's talk about this first off. Like, I don't think people realize, well, I do think people realize, but I don't think a lot of people realize the extent of the expenses that a charity has. They just
almost more.
People, yeah, I mean, a lot of people think like I give my $100 and $100 is going to the charity. Right. Well, FYI, most charities don't even give 80% of what they receive to the charity or to the charities they're supporting, because there's a lot of costs involved.
Sure.
You have people, you have all the things that you talked about, and in this instance, the acquiring the bourbon that goes towards the fundraisers. So I think it's really a great move to set up Bourbon Hood, to bring in those donations, to cover all of those overhead costs, and just think about like, so tell us like the levels of giving that there are for Bourbon Hood.
So it starts at $10 a month. So if
$10 a month, people.
People like, come on, like $10 a month for a lot of people. They're spending that on just stuff that could be going to a better cause, right? We all know that. Or we kind of went with the hashtag leave a bottle on the shelf with some of our fundraisers. You can't buy a bottle of bourbon. I mean, people that buy a bottle of bourbon, they're going to spend more than $10 a month on some. If they could just, instead of buying that $50 bottle, buy the $40 bottle, or instead of the $30, buy the $20 bottle, and join the Bourbon Hood. It's so it goes up from 10 to 25, 50 to $100, and we're actually working on now corporate Bourbon Hood sponsorships, where we're hoping we can attract some of the bigger players in the industry, where it's like, okay, you get behind this. This charity is the community. This is the industry. I think over time we'll get there, but that's kind of the goal. Is let's get the grassroots with the people that can give $10 a month, and then we'll work on some of the bigger distilleries that might have $500, $1,000 a month to give.
No, again, it's super smart, because if you can say, hey, I mean, you can go to a distillery and say, hey, right now we have 200 individuals supporting us with $10 a month.
Right.
And then they look at that, and you can say to them, like, look at this, look at what we're doing with individuals, look at the impact that you can make by joining these individuals to support the charity. Not only will you end up covering the costs, the overhead costs that we have, then we'll be able to give even more money. Right. To all these great causes that the charity is supporting.
And that helps out the industry. It makes the industry, like, that's one of the most special things about bourbon. It's like enjoying it with good people and enjoying it for the right reasons, like that's what, like, when I pour some bourbon like this, like, I know that this little dram I poured, I know like $1.50 of this probably just went to support our military. I mean, that feeling is great. And that's what bourbon, and I'm sharing it with like you, like, that awesome. Is bourbon.
Yeah, no, No, I totally agree. And like this community, it's a good sized community, but it also feels like very tight knit.
Yep.
So it's easy to rally the bourbon whiskey community around a cause, and that's what I love about Bourbon Charity, like being that organization to rally all of us around whether it's a pop up, something that needs an immediate need, or these fundraisers throughout the year. So I would love to encourage everyone that's watching, everyone that watches this after the fact in my stories, everyone that watches this when it goes on YouTube, please go to bourboncharity.org. There's a link on there to Bourbon Hood, and there's a separate website even for
bourbonhood.org. Yeah, either way you can get there.
So either way, go check it out. It lists out like what the money is going to cover, and it can make a huge impact. I mean, even if we get 100 people to donate $10 a month, that's a huge amount of money throughout the course of the year. That's $120,000 throughout the course of the year to kind of cover costs. So I think that's totally achievable. And so if people out there can go and check that out, and if you can make a donation as little as $10 a month, I mean, please do it. And I think we got a question here. Let me take a look here, Brandon. I'll put this up for you.
Ha ha ha. Yeah, so that's Bourbon Finds. Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that we've been spitballing around because we've got a couple fundraisers now under our belt, and it's no lie that Pappy moves the needle. I mean, it moves the needle. So, what I'm actually trying to do is find a way to get our cost of some of these unicorns down. Like, unfortunately, out here in Arizona, I got 2 liquor stores that I source a lot of product from, and just to get the product, I'm still paying secondary for it. I'm not getting it at retail. I'm not getting it at retail plus a little bit. I'm getting it like at crazy prices. And unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately, I'm getting it. Having the source and actually having it and being able to generate revenue within these fundraisers is important. Like Bourbon Charity couldn't be Bourbon Charity without that bourbon. Right. But at the same time, our cost of acquisition on our inventory is sky high. And so if we can somehow chip down at that inventory, and it starts with we have to source from liquor stores. So if anyone out there knows their watering hole that, hey, like, if you can reserve 1 bottle of BTAC or of a Pappy at either retail or retail plus a little bit, that could be allocated to Bourbon Charity, let Bourbon Charity source that from you. That would cut down tremendously on our costs of hosting these fundraisers. Yeah, so huge. And, if we can start getting some of the distributors and some of the retailers, some of the distilleries to start getting us pricing at reasonable retail, oh gosh, I'll drink to that.
Yeah, I'll drink to that too. So Bourbon Finds made a point here, a question. So you cannot take donations from individuals. Like, I can't say, hey Brandon, I've got a Pappy 23, I want to send you for Bourbon Charity.
Do you want the right answer?
Yeah,
the right answer has to be sourced from sources, liquor stores or distilleries. Is the correct answer. If you have any other questions, you can DM me about it, and I can go through it with you.
All right, very good. So I'm going to ask you one other question, and what's like your big crazy idea, crazy dream for Bourbon Charity? Do you have like a crazy dream for the charity that like you ultimately would love to see come to fruition?
I think really the main dream is like see a cure for NF for this little girl, to see a cure for prostate cancer, like like I am 100% driven by the causes that we support and helping them succeed. Like I don't want Dare to Care to worry about like how are we going to get money to feed the homeless. Like I want Bourbon Charity to be that person, that angel on their shoulder that says, we got you. Like we'll do a fundraiser, we'll contribute to you, or prostate cancer. You figure out cancer. Like let's give you money so you can make that happen. I think that's the goal of Bourbon Charity, is just like I want to be the wind at these charities' backs and make them do what they do instead of worrying about fundraising. Like let us do the fundraising for you, and you guys do what you do.
I love that. I love that. And let's remind people that like you don't have to wait for a fundraiser to donate to Bourbon Charity. You can go to the website at any time and you can make a donation if you want outside of any of the sweepstakes fundraisers that are going on. So hey, if you feel like giving at any time, please visit bourboncharity.org and you can make a donation through there at any time, any level. And also, yeah, go
You want
ahead.
to see this, Chris? Like, so a $10 donation on a monthly on the Bourbon Hood gets you this awesome koozie. Shout out to Charles Bourbon Man for helping design that. And this really sweet Bourbon Hood frosted Glencairn. That's a $10 a month donation. You get this plus a Bourbon Hood sticker that comes with it. And, you know, the first $25 of your donation is not tax deductible. It goes to purchasing this, but every other monthly payment after that is tax deductible. So you get that right off. You get some cool swag and merch that you can represent the Bourbon Hood with, and it's a win-win. You can help us achieve our mission of 100% charity.
Yes, so please, everyone out there, if you can, if you're able to, you know, check it out. Check out bourboncharity.org, bourbonhood.org. You can start off with just as low as $10 a month. Get that cool glass, the koozie, the sticker, and you even get tickets into the sweepstakes each time as well. So Brandon,
you're automatically entered into the sweepstakes, so you get some action on the sweepstakes for doing it. It's a lot, you know, I had a lot of buddies who were like, you know, from early on that were like, Brandon, I support what you do, and I know who you are. Like, I'm going to give to these sweepstakes. I'm not, like, I have guys that like wine, they're not even in the bourbon, like, but they just, you know, they love me. And they're like, it'd be great if like I didn't have to think about like the fundraisers being, oh shoot, I got to get into this one to support you. You know, boom, there you go. You got Bourbon Hood, you got your monthly donation, you're still supporting the charity. It's kind of, it's a win-win for a lot of people where you just kind of, it's set it and forget it and know that you're doing good and drinking for a change.
Absolutely. So Brandon, thank you for everything that you do. I mean, it's amazing. It was great to hear like your story, to hear a little bit of the backstory of how you got things going, kind of how the first year went, how the charity has grown, and where it's going.
The future.
This year is really amazing. So everyone, please stay tuned. Follow Bourbon Charity on Instagram. You have a Facebook page too. I mean, check the website for updates. There's always something going on. You can give at any time, and please consider the monthly giving on Bourbon Hood. So Brandon, cheers to you.
Cheers to you, buddy.
Thanks for joining. It was really great talking to you, and we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely, Chris. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Take care.
You too.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. It was great to talk to Brandon, to kind of get some of the backstory and how he started the charity leading up until now. There's really, really big things coming this year. Lots of great sweepstakes and fundraisers. But again, a really huge thing would be if you can support Bourbon Hood with a monthly donation. That would be absolutely amazing if we can bring down those overhead costs so that 100% of the donations can go to all of these great charities that Bourbon Charity is supporting. That would be a game changer. So guys, until next time, cheers, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.